And perfect. Bam.
We are
That
in.
Welcome to the Octopus Marquee. I'm the Octopus David Matthew Johnston, and today we're having a conversation with Victor A. Martin. He is just a filmmaker I really enjoy. Somebody that has made very meditative pieces with a great flow to his films. Generally, either searching for or trying to maintain peace or stillness. Um, yeah, well, welcome, Victor.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
happy to be here.
yeah. No, it's funny because you're somebody, and really, all of these conversations we've been doing have been people that through the Octopus Marquee Independent Film Festival, through generally like Instagram, a little bit of Facebook, but mostly Instagram. I've either grown closer with or have a history of like having good conversations with. And when I was doing this, and like we would have done this, a year or two ago,
Right,
with
right.
calamities, getting stuff together.
Mhm.
And you were one of the first people I thought of doing this with.
Oh,
You're a
shoot.
very you have an individual voice, a unique presence. Uh, yeah, no, it for people unfamiliar with your work, if you could, whether it's always tough looking internally, it's easier defining externally.
Yeah.
But if you can just kind of talk about some of your overall themes and like recurring themes, overall style, stuff like that, for people that are looking to find more awesome filmmakers to hit the follow button on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is something that I have a hard time thinking about, or more so describing. I mean, I've said that my films are very sleepy, and
Yes.
and I don't mind if you fall asleep watching them, because it's a thing where I know time is precious, and I'll go into time as well as being a recurring theme in my films, but I don't want my films to be a thing where like it's it feels like a waste of time, or like it needs to be taken too seriously. Like I definitely cover themes and subjects that are serious to me and I take seriously, but at the end of the day, it's like I don't want it to be that serious. Like, if you go past in my previous work, I'm sure we'll talk about. I don't really take things seriously.
Yeah.
It just happens to be one of these things where every time I make a film, it's like, oh, this is about my anxiety or about whatever. But yeah, I mean, basically, my films deal a lot with time, just life, the mysteries of life, just sort of those existential questions we have, and trying to not even really answer, but just sort of express
Yeah.
about how I feel or how other people might feel about it. Yeah, sometimes I don't know why I keep getting drawn to those specific topics, because for the past few films I've been trying to get away from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And every time I'm like, damn it, I made another film about time or like whatever, death, like, and so yeah.
It's tough it's tough to escape what you don't fully recognize as a big part of your voice,
Hmm.
where it's like, oh, I did this. And I can say with certainty, you touch on a lot of these same topics, but each time you do so in such a unique and different way that still feels you,
Thank you.
that you're producing each time I can tell you're going out of your way to produce something that is a new experience, yet I'm still feeling like I'm learning either who you are
Hmm.
or I'm experiencing what you create. Hey, thank you. Yeah. Somebody grabbed the thing and grabbed me another thing. Bada pig, bada
Hell
boom.
yeah.
Yeah. Fun convo. Um, we're having a blast. Um, but yeah, and it's you mentioned time
Mhm.
and you mentioned anxiety, and those were two things that I took note of while watching. Like I've seen some of your films already,
Yeah.
and then leading up to this, I've watched more. And uh, for the Octopus Marquee Independent Film Festival, you won the Philosophic Octopus for thoughts on time. Um, and it was a film that really moved me in that you were talking to so many different, whether it's your friends, whether it's contemporaries, and they're all presenting different ideas of time, different concepts of what time means, what time literally is, their
Hmm.
experience. And it was presented in a way where you hear their voice, the image is different, and it really felt like something that you could, and same with Celia's Dream, same with all your other films, you could ease in and out of.
Yeah.
The experience less becomes this figurative or literal thing we're looking at, but more so something we are now a part of. And if we were a liquid, we are being dipped into something, or something is being dropleted into us and is
Mhm.
now a part of us as we're experiencing.
Mhm.
Um, and really, that is just an accomplishment
Oh man,
of
thank you.
uh, you are the you are the I know I'm saying the name wrong, but the Washington State Rathical, where a peachy tongue Rathical, where it's something that we really feel and experience your films. And what is it about these art pieces and these films where the concept of feeling and experiencing is more important than I'm going to present a traditional narrative that you feel like you need to follow
Mhm.
as opposed to a vibe, an aura, or a state of mind?
Yeah, I mean, like for me personally, I love narrative films. I
Mhm.
mean, I mean,
Me
who
too. Yeah.
doesn't? Who doesn't?
There. Yeah. When in doubt, narrative out. You know?
That's what they keep saying. That's what they keep
Yeah,
saying.
that's what they say. And then
And I might be.
the
I don't know if I'm answering your question right. I might. So I'm going to just answer it, and hopefully this is correct. Um, but I think that, at least for me, feeling a film just it just feels more substantial, and I have a really hard time writing anything. I am infamous for writing script like half of a script, a quarter of a script, and then just bailing on it or just not knowing where the second act should go. I have a
yeah, me too.
beginning
Yeah.
and end, and the middle is just like, who knows? I don't, and then I give up. Um, and so over the years, it's been like learning how to improvise the process more and not be so rigid with it. And um, like for instance, I just finished a film, Heavy Water, and that
Yes.
was the first.
Phenomenal.
Thank you so much. And that was the.
Absolutely phenomenal.
I thank you. I it's one that I've been working on for a very long time, in my eyes, because, like I said, if I don't finish it in like 3 months, it's usually in the garbage. So I've been working on this one since like April of last year, and this was like one of the first times where I actually had a written out script. I had the scenes thought out. When we shot it, it was just how I imagined it, and even when editing it, it was like this is still too rigid. This is still too like I know everything that's going to happen, and it's boring. which is so weird because I was so into it, but then as I'm editing, I'm like, this isn't interesting anymore. And so I tried to find ways to inject more spontaneity and feeling into it. So it's kind of that feeling of, you're just kind of going into it, like you said, coming out. There's no like, you are part of the experience. I think that is trying to make experimental films that feel immersive in like a very theatrical way. I think is something that I've been trying to do for a while. I think starting with like Celia's Dream. I remember, yeah. Am I on the right track with your question?
No, yeah, it's perfect. I think that to stay on heavy water,
Mhm.
you and the one you sent me less than a week ago, right? Maybe a week ago, give or take.
Mhm.
You were saying it's a rough draft close to done, so I don't know if I saw the same that will be the finish.
The
But
only real difference is the ending shot, but
nope, you yeah, yeah. And it was one that it really felt like your grandest piece in terms of, I don't want to say scope because all your films have the scope of this giant field that you are sitting in, either a grassy field filled with wildflowers and whatever,
Mhm.
or if you're in the ocean, and it feels like all of your films generally feel like there is no end to this vast feeling.
Yeah.
However, what is seen and what is presented is this narrow thing that you feel like, oh, the world is endless. Oh, the universe is endless. Oh, the concept is endless. Whereas this was one that it had that same feeling. However, we are seeing more. And not only that, but your other films feel very much like I'm learning who you are through what you were saying.
Mhm.
And I can pinpoint, okay, this is you, this is what you're saying, or this is what you're presenting. So I can learn who you are. Whereas this was one that was almost in a non-literal sense, almost autobiographical, where it felt more personal and it felt more like, hey, I'm trying to create bada bing, bada boom, and I have anxiety, and and like it really felt like you were less using these vague terms to define things that we can trace back to you, and you're more so using the term I and me and Victor. Not literally, but Um, so how would you say the experience of doing something that is more personal? All of your stuff leading up to this, or at least maybe since awareness has been, or the calm before the storm, um, has been somewhat personal and somewhat defining of you. But this being more like, was that a cognizant choice or something you felt that just happened where you're putting the spotlight more so on yourself? You're still at arm's length, which is completely fine because I can tell, that I do the same. My stuff's allegorical because I don't want people to know who I am.
Right, right.
But at the same time too, you can't help but state who you are. Was that something that was cognizant of you, or what was it about this piece that made the process harder to complete or to share?
You bring up a really good point about how this does feel like an autobiographical thing, and how films before this have been at arm's length, kind of vague. I don't know if I was really trying to, because like I said, I didn't want to make another personal film. With Thoughts on Time, I was like, I'm gonna let other people speak. I'm gonna let other people
Yeah.
speak, and I'll sit behind the computer. But yeah, with this one, it was like the original idea was kind of similar to what you see in the actual film. It's a guy's being interrogated about his art or just like his life, his inability to grow or like keep the habit of change and like and keep up with it. And so it wasn't really on purpose that this became more personal. And that was why it was so hard for me to edit this. And like it's the doubt that the character feels in the film is like very on point for how I was feeling. I kept doubting whether or not this was going to be too much of like a, look at me. You know, I have doubt. I don't know if my art's any good, if people care, and it felt cringy in 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 a way, which is stupid because I'm not the first fucking guy to make a film that's personal or about him. Like it's, but to me, it was like I don't want people to know this. It felt
Yeah.
too vulnerable, and
That is very tough to do.
yes, in a weird way, it's like this isn't taxing physically or like I'm getting beat up or cut up, but like mentally, it's like,
It's
damn,
exhausting. Yeah.
it is super exhausting. So I had to kind of just set that aside and realize that, look, I've been making films that feel personal. I'm sure it exposes me in some way. So what's another film? Who cares? Let's just put it out. Um, and so, yeah, it wasn't really a choice that I wanted, but it just happened. But I think with the themes of the film and how I've been trying to better myself over the past couple of years, it's like, it just makes sense. It just makes sense it came out that way. And I'm glad it did because if I don't ever make another film or if I make one that's completely different, I'll have that to be like, that's me. I leave now and that's that. That's the end of that story, essentially. So
Well, I mean, you touched on a lot of things there in terms of things you've been working on yourself. Uh, I remember, let's say a year ago, maybe a little more, you needed a break from social media, stuff like that, which is generally always the right move to make.
right, right, right.
But at the end of Heavy Water, you put in the credits your therapy,
Hmm.
right? Are you comfortable talking about whether it's your own or whether it's the broad sense of mental health? Because at least on a presentation of anxiety or depression or a needing to find peace, that is very, very, very present in your films,
Yeah,
if not outwardly stated, at least felt.
yeah.
So do you care to elaborate or to share this concept of the importance of mental health and where that takes you creatively, but then also just your life in general?
Yeah. So during the time of writing this, I was seeing a therapist for the first time ever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and I loved it. It was great. And talking with her and learning how to, incorporate more positive feelings into my life or positive mindsets, not being so hard on myself, just all these positive affirmations and like it was really mind opening or really opened my mind to what like it's not necessarily easy but like it's sort of or already there, like it's already available for you to learn and like attach yourself to better yourself. And there's, I don't know, it was just a really good experience. And so I think, shouting out my ex-therapist at the end of the film, being with her and learning from her meant a lot to me. And there's actually the chair scene where I'm sitting down is very inspired by her, because she wanted me to do this exercise where I sit down and basically talk to myself. Like, I'll sit in a chair, say some things. I'll sit in another chair, say something to that version of myself. And I was like, holy shit, that's like exactly what she was saying. It
Yeah.
was a weird sort of coincidental thing. But yeah, I just think in general, mental health and being aware of it and not being afraid to share how you're feeling is just so important. And I think obviously over the past few years, it's become a big priority in people's lives. It's not like a mystery anymore. No, people are very, for the most part, comfortable in sharing.
Or no stigma for most people,
Right.
you know,
And I think that's, what was that?
which is good. More people need to take care of such an important part of your life.
Yes,
You know,
exactly. It's
soul.
it's it's just like not worth it to keep that all bundled up. And especially for, men, I think being vulnerable and being kind of like, you know, meek is seen as, a weak thing. But I could just disagree 1,000 times over.
Sure.
There's a balance of being masculine, but also being emotionally mature. Like, those
Yeah.
don't have to be separate things.
Mhm.
Um, and
I can be
unfortunately, it seems
buff
like
as
it is
fuck,
for
but
so
still,
many.
yeah.
What was that?
I could be buff as fuck, but still, try to a Nicholas Stark novel. you
Exactly.
know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we need, damn it, in society.
Exactly. Yeah. No, but seriously, that was a big thing for me, and film creation was uh, self worth, self pride, a lot of poor self image. I'd never finish anything, or I'd start something and stop, or not be able to piece it all together, and anxiety would get the best of me.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's just who I am, so I'll just keep, whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, if people need to see someone or to take something or to, insert whatever here, it doesn't make you less of a man. It
Yeah.
does make you less of a woman
Exactly.
or less of a person, whatever. If we have the therapist to partially thank for the magnificent masterpiece that Heavy Water was, you know,
Thank you.
I'll kiss her on the forehead. She's a great human being, you know, and it's something that as a friend and as an individual, I can tell that a lot of times when talking to you, because I'm very self-deprecating, but you'll also be self-deprecating,
Yeah.
and you'll say your piece, and then there's that, oh, maybe I wasn't smart enough to get it, or oh, this, whatever. And I just want to awkwardly take this moment while we're recording to say that you are somebody that is so very special and so very intelligent and so very communicative and kind, that beyond just being a unique artist, I can tell you're a good person and you're somebody that matters. So, I mean, don't stop doing whatever you feel you need to while you're communicating. I'm not saying change or anything like that, but I hope that during those moments of self-deprecation, whether it's joke or whether it's a necessity, uh, you're a valued and good person. And I can tell that through your work and through our conversation. and through things like your smoothie stream and stuff like that, which we'll get into later. But to go past kindness, to continue, a lot of your work uses, let's say, and by the way, I don't have my, for people watching, I don't have my clipboard of justice. I have my notebook of peace. Because we're dealing with a more meditative filmmaker, I feel it's appropriate. So for those who missed the clipboard, it will be back likely during the next interview. But a lot of your films generally are presented in a way that has this willingness to focus on sound, where the sound is almost the key to the experience, or at least an equal part, which I think is good. And the images are non-traditional, often geometric, often moving, often strobing. In awareness, it's like we're scrolling past memories and scrolling past, whether it's anxiety or whether it's good or whether it's bad. It's generally presented in a way that forces feelings and forces concepts and forces whatever more so than saying.
Yeah.
So your presentation of the films that you do, not necessarily doing, okay, I'm an actor here and an actor here. They're going to talk about how they don't love each other anymore. You're more so like triangle forming into hexagon.
Ooh, yes.
Hot dog, let's get it. What is it about that presentation that is you? And how is that a part of you? Or what you want to...
Yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with making films by myself.
Yeah.
And not wanting to be in front of the camera. I'm trying to remember the timeline of my films here, of when it kind of, I had some early like experimental things I think I sent you where it was just me in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And it was another thing where it was like, okay, this feels really try hard. I'm going to stop doing that. And then like with awareness and, like Celia's dream, it was more so like, how can I develop really cool images with just like the power of the computer? And, or, how can I just elicit emotions from like, non-traditional images? And I think sound in particular is almost more important to me. For instance, like with Thoughts on Time, I was really tempted to have no visuals at all. I was like, I could just have a black screen. That's fine with me. There's sections in Heavy Water. What was that?
I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's...
I did that with the Sublime Hubris, where I had about 25 minutes of no image towards the end.
I love that.
It's such a forcing sound. I thought you did just an exquisite job with it. Really added to this concept of time to be able to focus on something that is vast and nothing at the same time.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, where was I? Shoot.
I'm sorry, I jumped in.
No, you're good. Do you mind reinstating the question?
So you were talking about how you wanted to Venmo me $20, which I was like, you don't need to do that, but if you do, I'll send you a message with my account info.
That's what it was. That's right.
I was talking willingness to focus on sound and use of non-traditional imagery. Yeah, I kind of threw you off. Sorry, dude.
No, you're fine. ADHD brain.
Yep.
So, yeah, like I said, kind of started with me not wanting to be in the films, but over the time I realized like I can only do the geometric shapes and like psychedelic stuff for so long. Um, I love that stuff because I myself, I've never done psychedelics, but I love the psychedelic imagery of just what that is all about. I love this idea that you can take something that will completely alter your mind. And I was like, how can I do that? But for sober individuals, but make them feel like they're having like, like, whoa, I'm tripping, bro. Um,
Yeah.
so like, I don't know. I really like incorporating that sort of imagery and the sound that goes along with it. I think like I've kind of already said, I feel like it's more important because that there's so much that sound can elicit in someone. I mean, that's no mystery. If you listen to any sort of music that makes you feel something, you'll understand that. And what I love about film audio is that you have a score, but you also have all the sound design elements. So
Yeah.
there's just so much you can do. And I really started toying with that on a film called The Talent Show that I did back in like 2019, 18. And I was doing things where I was like, I had a pencil and I was rubbing that against the tripod of my microphone and making these weird little sounds and then adding that into the background of the film. And I don't know, I think that's just all that combined is just so much fun for me. I
Yeah.
love being able to experiment not just with audio or visuals, but with audio because I think if the visuals are lacking, in my opinion, it's like, okay. But if the sound's lacking, it's like, ooh,
It
I don't
doesn't
know.
work.
It's a
Yeah.
little bit worse, in my opinion, at least. It's a bit more like obvious. And that just might be because that's just what I'm used to.
Mhm.
But if, like with Heavy Water, I took so long editing that audio and redoing sections of music because it's like if the music does not match the visuals, then like it's going to be maybe it's not obvious to the viewer, but for me, I can see it, and it would pain me to have it released like that. Um, so yeah,
No, yeah, I can tell you with Heavy Water specifically, and I more so have fun with it, but yeah, that's for sure getting in at least my top 50 letterbox. It like it's I can't say this enough. When it's made public, I'll share it on my Insta or whatever.
thank you.
It's become one of my favorite films, and it's something that's absolutely phenomenal. And I truly believe that uh, you've perfected or at least created something beautiful. Um,
Thank you so much.
uh, and kind of what you're talking about with sound and editing. Um, with the NFL season being a thing right now, right? I feel like I'm such a douche.
All right, top three quarterbackers. Let's get into it.
Yeah. No, I feel like editing is like the offensive line,
Okay.
where it's something that, and I get a lot of viewers from other countries, so this probably won't mean anything, but but editing and sound are generally something that you don't most people don't notice until it's bad.
Yeah.
Where you have great editing and the quarterback's not getting sacked,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
The plays are being made and the credit all goes to the quarterback and the wide receiver, but it was this line that stopped the big bullies from stopping you
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
stop these, whatever. Um, Editing is just so important. Whether it's something you notice, whether it's something you you just experience throughout the entire film, whether angle one, angle two,
Hmm. Hmm.
cutting into it. And it's natural and it feels like you were just watching existence. Um, and so with the shapes, with the sound, with you saying you're behind the computer, and just everything. Editing is so important. And you and I were talking about Ode, or you were messaging about Ode to the Whale of Christ,
Yeah.
and that's a film that I'd say the strength is in the editing,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of your films are very editing forward and very much this stuff is happening and it's the stuff you're creating. But it's not that editing has the stigma to it, but I feel like not enough people know that it's the glue. What is your process as an editor and as someone that is like, okay, is it just that you're reacting to what needs to be created, or is it something that you're sitting down and you have this idea of like, okay, triangle slowly becomes trapezoid at 3.5 seconds
Yeah.
and it's going to feel exquisite, you know?
Um, yeah, I mean, with editing and back to your films, I'm still thinking about the patience it must have taken to do the text and ode. Oh my
Oh,
God.
it was a lot. It was a lot.
Keeping track of like, I mean, I'm sure you had like a very set idea of where the words are going to go, but like, damn, that was really impressive, dude. Like,
Oh, thank you.
hats off to you. That was really good. And editing is like you said, it's the glue. It is where the film is made, and it's a feeling thing. It's not because half the time when I'm editing my films, it's Celia's dream, awareness. It's like, and my film Afraid of the End. It was like I have these images that I like. How can I piece them together to make a story? And what dumb things can I do along the way to tweak them? If I add like five mirror plugins to one shot, what's that going to look like? If I
Yeah.
turn up the saturation and gamma, like just what's breaking the image going to do? And then I spend too long doing that stuff, and I end up either getting way too sidetracked or discovering something really cool.
Mhm.
And I've been doing that for so many of my films where that's just sort of I keep doing that. I don't like knowing what I'm doing in a sense. Like I like to have an idea, but if I know every step of the way, it takes away the mystery and the intrigue. And I think that's why it took me so long to edit Heavy Water, because it was like I have this script right here, but for some reason I cannot follow it. I know what I need to place there, but like my brain is actively fighting against that. And let me just try to add in five more mirror plugins to an image and see if that works. It's it's a very inefficient process, but it's what keeps it fun for me. And I think it will always be that way of spontaneity and, you know, just seeing what looks cool, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's like you said, I'm not, I, the art, it means a lot to me, but it's not a thing where I'm going to try to be perfect, and I'm not going to try to be too stuffy about it. It's at the end of the day, it's just a movie, and if you like it, you don't, or if you like it, you like it, and if you don't, you don't, and
Yeah.
hopefully you got something out of it. Hopefully you thought that the images were cool. The triangle, the trapezoid was a banger. Hopefully you thought that. So
That was a good
yeah,
episode. You could have worked on the triangle, but that was fine.
that's fair. It's funny.
We can't all be winners.
The psychedelic like mirroring images is something that I try to get away from because I was doing it for I think a couple of films.
Sure.
And I remember I was talking to my girlfriend about it because she was very like I had to like vent to her about the film and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Or, and she'd be like, that's kind of like going back to the thing you were trying not to do, because this whole film was me for Heavy Water was trying to move forward. And
Ooh,
I kept doing,
ooh,
can you believe that?
ooh. Man, I got chills. I'm sorry. I just
And, um, yeah, so like with the fucking triangle, the trapezoid stuff, it was like, that's old me, but part of me is like, I gotta put it in there. It just makes sense.
yeah.
So I don't know.
You're
It's
on the
just
pressure flow symbolism. You're past shapes, dog.
dude, I'm past shapes. It's time for actual cameras being used and people in the frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
Get the
thanks. Yucky. Um, where was I? I thought I had
wow.
another point, but I think it wasn't that important. So
What was that?
I think I had another point, but I lost it, and I don't think it was that important anyway.
I jumped
So
in again. Sorry, yeah. Well, what you're talking about with discovering the film, last interview I did with Ruth Rashidi, um, who's just one of the nicest people ever. If
yeah,
you get a chance, send him a message. He's just kind. He's a great person.
very sweet.
And like he would like I refer to him as a cinematic metaphysicist
Mm-hmm.
because he very much believes the film is out there and our goal is to discover it
Yeah, yeah,
through change, through making it work, through adjusting this, and you discover what this entity is, which is very Platonic, like Plato, Aristotle, all these like early philosophers. He's going back to the concept of cinema and trying to find. I use the example, the concept of the chair is how we discovered the chair, right? So he's finding these concepts of this is how I get Oedipus or trailers, Phantom Islands, or Only Human, etc. Right? And what you're doing very much feels aligned with that, where you have this vibe, you have this concept, you have this goal, and it's not necessarily I'm plotting out at this point this guy turns his head, and at this point I
yeah.
cut to the guy going really,
Right,
uh,
right.
whereas you are like, what if I make it a little more orange? What if this trapezoid shows up?
Yeah, yeah.
It's this concept that you are in that same line of thinking as him. And ironically, I was just talking with him that it's this piece or this artwork or this film is something to be discovered more so than I have everything plotted out and this is what I have in mind.
Yeah.
Or somewhere in between, because generally, we do like I have outlines, I have stuff like that, and I've worked as a changer. Um, I look at it as an existentialist, where it's ourselves trying to find meaning within ourselves through the things around us,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And we're pulling it in, but really, we're both saying the same exact thing. We're both creating something, and it's just how we're romanticizing
Yeah.
these concepts that are both this form of creation. Because he's a genius, um, I'm very smart. But to go off of that, do you feel like you're working through and discovering the piece, or do you feel like I am trying to accomplish what I'm trying to say? If that makes sense as a question.
I think it might be a combination of both because,
Sure,
I kind of give myself a handful, heavy water is kind of the exception. I had it all laid out. I knew what I was wanting to say,
sure,
and I didn't leave a lot of room for discovery initially. But it is kind of a thing where I know vaguely what I want to say, or at least express, with or without words, and I kind of make the images or a sort of a blank canvas to
sure.
say what I want to say. Um, like for instance, with Celia's dream, I didn't know it was going to look like that. I had no idea it was going to look like that. It was a thing of where I had shot these images with this, if I shoot behind a black background, then maybe I can, do a bit of masking or make sure they pop out the person, and then the background I can kind of mess around with. But I didn't think it was going to look like that. And but to me, that kind of married my idea, my sort of feelings with what it was supposed to be.
Sure.
Um, and that's why I am so in love with the spontaneity of editing and the way I do it, because I know from past experiences that's kind of where I find the film. And that's where, you know, it just it just makes the most sense. I don't know how else to describe it. It just
No, yeah,
makes sense.
100%. Yeah, yeah, it works for you and it's how you create. And it's this concept of you're going and you're creating and you're both discovering, but you have this idea of what to say.
Yeah,
You know what's ahead of you, but you don't know how you're getting.
exactly. Yeah, and I think I don't know if I'll ever change because, like I said, it's just
And please don't. You
I
know,
think I mean
well,
I think it's working. I think
you
it's
do what
working.
you do, obviously, but
Every time
still,
I'm like, oh shit, I'm doing this again and it's going to be exhausting, but then I make the trapezoid to or the triangle to trapezoid and the world spins. All is
exactly.
well.
You know, it's tough to spin when it's flat. But
That's exactly.
um,
Preach.
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, yeah, let's talk about. Mentioned it a few times. I love Celia's Dream, and it's like one of the most like pro meditative experiences. I guess we could split
Is it proto
where
meditative?
it just like you're literally like it's this concept of breathing. And I'll be honest, I the lead up to this, I didn't watch it. I watched it when it was in the festival,
Hmm.
and I still think back to it though, which is
Oh,
the
sweet.
power of it. It's a film that very much like I don't know if it's a trilogy or whatever. You know, the calm. You have
Hmm.
awareness, and is Celia's dream with that, or is it time that's with them?
Like, did I make a trilogy out of those films?
Yeah, yeah, or I don't know. It seemed like a
Oh,
all of them are some. And I'm using trilogy loosely, maybe
okay,
quadrilogy.
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Octopus C, whatever.
I get you. I get
This is
you.
where everyone realizes that I don't know what I'm talking
Hey, you said you're really smart, man. I'm getting the
about.
impression
Yeah.
you're lying.
If you if yeah, but this when you did Celia's dream,
Hmm.
was it this like what was it you were trying to discover or find or create? Was it this keep calm aspect? Was it this the pro meditation? Was it like what's the because it's such a powerful film and it's maybe your best example of sleepy that I think that like I think let's just say Heavy Water's your magnum opus, right? Let's just say that, right?
Sure.
Um, Celia's Dream, even with that, is still the most, when I think of Victor Martin films, is the one that you go to.
Yeah, yeah.
At least for me, where it's this concept, and maybe it's literally just because it's the first of yours I've seen. So I'm comparing everything to it. So it could just literally be my own experience clouding this. I think Heavy Water is your most personal, but on this weird sense of sleepy filmmaking, what's more sleepy than Celia's Dream?
Absolutely.
When you were creating that, what were you trying to create? And successfully so. Jesus, that film's great.
Thank
Or
you.
who did that film's great? You know, we don't know what the viewers are. You know.
You know, this is going to sound like a cop out, but like it was, I really don't know. It started off as an idea where, what was that?
That's a
Yeah, I
good
mean,
answer. Yeah.
I mean, like originally the idea was going to be much more different and incorporate so many more elements, but it was a thing where I was just like, I got my girlfriend together. This was like the first thing we had done artistically, and I was like, I think it'll be cool if you move your hands a certain way, or do some weird things with your hands, and move your head around and get a close up of your eye. Because I had a loose idea, but I wasn't really sure what I was doing. So I thought, well, I could probably do something with these images. I had enough confidence in myself to think that, okay, I don't really know what this is about, but I will find it. And with that one, I think that was like pure instinct. I had no inspiration. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be like, whatever experimental filmmaker from the 60s. It was,
Yeah.
I'm going to just do purely what I want to do. And I didn't even know what the film meant. Like, that was the first film that I actually got like recognition for.
Really,
And
yeah.
and that was so cool because I mean, I've been making films for a while, and no one ever really saw them, which is fine. I mean, that happens. And then for this one to be like so recognized, and then for me not even know what it's about, it's like, oh shit, I gotta come up with something.
Yeah,
So
right.
like
Yeah.
I had to keep thinking about like I had to watch it and just be like, what is this even about? I ended up coming with like it's a shared like awakening sort of transcendent thing. But even still, I'm like, I don't really know what it's about. And like, I'm cool with that. Like, same with Heavy Water. I'm like, I know what it's about, but I'm not upset if I don't get it myself, essentially.
Yeah.
Because
Your films are not definable.
yeah, somewhere deep inside, I'm going to know what it is. Someone is going to know what it is. If someone, if someone has their own interpretation of it, I'll take it. That's what the film's about,
Yeah.
which that's what I love about experimental and just like really subjective art is that it doesn't matter what the original intent was essentially because in a sense it does, but if
Yeah.
people are watching it and you're allowing people to see it publicly, then it could be interpreted for 100 different things, and that's what ultimately kind of sets the tone, I guess.
You
Yeah.
know, that's a lot of my films are stuff I want to express and say, but I leave it to the viewer to interpret. I think a lot of films are essentially it's a trinity. So you have it's an extension of the artist or the conglomerate or the whatever that created it.
Mm-hmm.
So a Marvel movie is as much Marvel as it is the director, whatever.
Sure, sure.
Your film is as much you as it is the film.
Yeah.
There is the film itself. So Celia's Dream is essentially Celia's Dream. So we're judging it and interpreting it as its individual piece. along with you, but separate from you as itself. And then it's the viewer of, oh, you know what? I really interpreted like the takedown of Enron, or insert whatever here,
Sure.
where it's this concept of, on a serious note, on something that is okay, that is what lives through the individual that has experienced it. And someone thinking back to something, and if they misremember or if they whatever, that is as much a part of the film as film itself. So the film is in three parts: the creation, the actual, and the resuscitation. The
Yeah.
And I feel like Celia's dream really a great example of it, where it's something you felt you needed to create. It's something that exists as this thing that got you and it recognized, and then it's also something that lives with me or as with whoever as the viewer that is thinking
Yeah. That's a beautiful way of looking at it.
experiences are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, all this talk on cinema, all this talk on creation, all this talk on whatever. When was it that you discovered you loved cinema and also felt the need, whether separately or at the same time or whatever, felt the need to, I need to create within this medium? Because I know you do photography,
Mm-hmm.
and you do sound, and you do all this other work. But cinema specific, what is it that drew you to it initially, and then what is it that, when is it, however you want to answer it, you felt like you needed it to be a part of your life?
Yeah. I mean, aside from when I was really young, me, my uncle, and his friend, who became one of my best friends,
Sure.
we would all make films together. And it was a sort of thing where, yeah, I could have said, no, I don't want to do this. But my uncle was like an older brother to me, still is. And I was like, I'm going to do whatever he does. So I would join them, make films together, do little dumb skits. And so it started from a really young age, but it wasn't like, it was still sort of a passive thing. Like, from what I can recall, like, I still had a lot of fun doing it, but I didn't understand what movies even were. I didn't understand what cinema was. I didn't understand art. I was like 9 years old, 10 maybe.
Sure.
It didn't really occur to me until, it's weird because I've been making films for so long, and I kind of forgot before we got on here. I was like, oh yeah, I had a whole other YouTube channel that I didn't even share with you, where I would make films.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, you're good. I had a whole other channel that I had with my brother, where we made films, but like, it was just a thing I'd like to do, but I don't think it really occurred to me how powerful art could be until, I'm pretty sure it was when I saw Interstellar for the first time.
Which movie?
Interstellar.
Wow, so recent.
It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
I've always liked films, but after seeing that, I was like, holy shit.
I saw that was in your letterbox.
Mm-hmm.
I still need to see it.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was, my memory isn't the greatest, so it could have been a different point in my life, but looking back, that is like a point in time that I'm always remembering and drawn to, is that when I went to go see that film.
There Will Be Blood for me.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, that was the one that brought me down the wormhole. So
that's a perfect choice.
Yeah.
With Interstellar, it was like seeing such grand images on a huge screen, but also having this like very spiritual, very like just human connection element to it, where it was like there's a whole feeling element to it that isn't really explainable. They really try to explain in the film, but They don't do a great job. But
Isn't there something beautiful about that?
what was that?
Isn't there something beautiful about that? Or it's this concept of they feel they need to express it, but they don't need to explain it?
Yeah. Yeah. And that really inspired a lot of my art from here on out. It was like you can develop some really extraordinary and powerful images, but you can also have unexplainable elements and feelings that will connect with people.
Yeah.
And whether that's, love or some sort of spiritual element, it's like I love that stuff. That stuff is great. I love just those things about reality that just no one really has a great answer for, because that just keeps things interesting. And I love things not being explained.
No, I mean, you saying that was a thing that, whether it was consciously or subconsciously, got me with There Will Be Blood, was at the end of it.
Yeah.
At the, the end with the whack.
Yeah.
I'm finished.
Yeah.
Where they're sitting there and then it does that classical music. I think it's Bach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is silent in the theater. And I'm just sitting there like, at this point in my life, my oldest brother, he already showed me like some Hitchcock and some like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and different films like Rear Window and stuff like that. So it's like, I at this point had an appreciation for what like a well-made film is, right? Mm-hmm. And then seeing this grand thing that had a different pace, and the score was by the guitarist from Radiohead. And the cinematography was just something I've never experienced that grand. And having this ending, and I'm just like,
right.
And these two old ladies, were just like right behind me. They're just like, well, that happened. And they got up and left. And it was this idea that, even if you create the greatest thing ever, there will always be people that are just like, yeah, fuck that. That's dumb.
It's amazing that, like you said,
Isn't that amazing? And like it's just something that affects you so much. And like Interstellar, and I didn't see it yet, but it's something that I remember when it came out. It had such mixed reactions, and the people that saw it that really enjoyed it found it so profound. And how much do you feel the need for acceptance? Because that's something I in life I struggle with.
Yeah.
I still make what I make, but I still cry a little when someone doesn't like my stuff, Yeah. But this idea that you're creating something so you, so personal, so individual that you can't even explain it, but it is so much you. It's easier to, and this is like when you're dealing with the problems of yourself versus other people. It's easier to see the chess moves when you're on the side of the board looking in, and you say, in 2 moves, this person can get this guy in check. Mm-hmm. But when you're playing, and it's your film, or it's your problem, you're just like, you're focused on this part, you're focused on this part, you're whatever. Yeah. And it's so personal and you're so deep into it that you don't see it. So when other people are like, I'm kind of rambling here, but how much does acceptance affect you or drive you or whatever?
I think it really became apparent after people started seeing Celia's Dream, because like I said, I was not used to that. I had put the films on Letterboxd, and people started seeing it, and I realized, okay, I have an audience now. There's expectations, maybe, at least in my head there are. And what?
Dance monkey. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's that pressure to entertain, but I knew in the back of my head that, like, it doesn't really matter what people think about the film. It's great if people love it, but I can't control what the outcome is.
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
try to make it as perfect as I can, but at the end of the day, none of my films are perfect. It's one of those things where I just had to. I've been pretty good about it, and I'm thankful for that because it was so easy to get so swallowed up in what other people think and wanting to be accepted. I mean, for most of my life, I've been kind of like a background character. I never really like stood out too much, and so being like an accepted person, it was like, I mean, generally liked, but not like you're number one picked on the sports team or for PE. So for film, it's kind of like I want to be accepted, but also if I'm not, that's fine. Generally, people seem to really like my movies, which is really cool. And
Well, you're the main character to me.
bless your heart. So, and with Heavy Water, I guess maybe it's a similar thing where I don't even know if it was so much wanting to be accepted as it was just like I'm being very vulnerable, and I don't know if this is too much. If this is before I a couple months ago, I'd watched this Jennifer Lopez documentary and
Oh,
film,
yeah.
and it was about her creating this film. It was like millions of dollars, like personal project about her marriages, and like it was so much like, oh yeah, this is about her. Like this is about no one else. And it made me think about Heavy Water, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't want it to come off like this.
You compared uh your deep in the water, anxiety driven self self portrait that is abstract and full of hexagons, pentagons, triangles, and squares to a J-Lo documentary.
Look, it's
Listen, all right. So when I was doing Ode, it was this internal struggle and recognition of faith and stuff like that. And I saw Paula and doing on American Idol, and I was like, you know what? That's me.
oh shit. Look, man. Okay, just let me explain myself. Okay.
all,
That's so funny.
all teasing aside, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm just making funny. I know exactly, and you have
I love it. No.
I had to think because people like if people are thinking I'm being a bully, and I am,
You're not.
you
You're
do
so
a
good.
smoothie scene, and I just spend the entire time demanding quotes and making jokes. So, so, so and maybe it's just one-sided where I'm just being a dick.
Absolute dude. No, absolutely not. Like I said, the arts, it means a lot, but dude, like, yeah, if you're not laughing or having fun doing it,
Yeah.
so yeah, I compared myself to Jennifer Lopez film, whatever.
Yeah, you're just Victor from the Wash.
Right, exactly.
You're still Victor from the Wash.
And yeah, where was I going? Fuck, where was I going with that?
You take pictures how you make films. At least you know where you came from. Victor Martin.
Look, I'm not on her level, but let me just.
I left the word. I gotta try before. Give me a sec. Oh man, ouch. That's punishment for that.
You threw off the vibe, bro.
I earned that Charlie horse.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
so you're talking about J-Lo. Continue.
Correct. Yes. So she made a documentary about the making of her short film, and it made, yeah, like I said, it just made me think about how I was also making a very personal project, and I was afraid that it was going to be too much like, oh, here's me, this is me, and I'm feeling, emotions, and I'm crying, and I was getting freaked out a little bit because I'm like, oh, like I don't want that. I mean, I don't like. There's no problem with that, but I didn't want to come off as like, look how emotional I am. It just felt cringy. I keep using that term, but that's the only word that's coming to mind. It just, ugh.
You were worried about authenticity and it coming across less like, oh, look at me crying, and more so, this is how I feel.
Right,
And
right.
that's to me, that's always tough, where it's like, because I do a lot of stuff where it's like, and then like, I'm worried, like, okay, is this going to be cheesy?
Sure,
Is this going to be like someone trying to Russian, like Tarkovsky light, or
sure.
are people going to see it as being me? And I think people that do very personal projects, it is a struggle of, I feel like I'm being myself, but will other people interpret it as inauthenticity?
Yeah.
I can say that to me, you are J-Lo doing her hits. You you know, but you're killing it.
Thank you.
So yeah. And then you come off on a serious note. You come off very genuine and very voicing yourself in a way that, whether it's intended how you're intending it to be interpreted, I can at least recognize that you're putting yourself out there. And yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't, like I said, I don't want it to be taken too seriously.
Sure.
I've been, it's like I'm not holding on to these emotions necessarily. I'm not going to be offended if someone's like, this is bullshit, what a crybaby or whatever, because it's like, okay, yeah, maybe I was a bit of a crybaby, whatever.
Hey,
Or, and
yeah, let's both be vulnerable. We all cry. I cried at the end of Dancer in the Dark when Bjork hangs herself.
oh, I
And
haven't
I
seen it.
gets hung, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and yeah, I cried during that.
Sure.
Cried at the end of Cody when it's all hanging scenes. I cried. Maybe
It's a
there's
bad way to
something,
go.
you have past life or something. But yeah, in vulnerabilities is, I remember, and I don't think the person I'm talking about will make it this far in the video, so it's fine. Um, but I remember a friend of mine, I showed him Ode, right?
Hmm.
I had a lot going on in my life, right? And it was the type of thing where, as I was looking for some level of validation,
Yeah.
and it was like, yeah, I just didn't like it. And yeah, I didn't get, it wasn't for, and I was like, oh yeah, that's. And then I went home and I fucking I had a tear, I
Oh,
teared up,
damn. Yeah, yeah.
type of thing that you put yourself out there, and you can try and be as brave and as whatever, but when there's something that's so personal and so whatever, I mean, it's okay to, and I feel like our generation is, we're past the concept of what's masculine and what's not
Sure,
masculine,
sure.
but there still is this level of, I don't want to be weak.
Yeah.
And you were talking about that earlier, where we're trying to kind of battle this whatever. And I'm a fairly, like, I don't, unless if I'm close to someone, I don't like them truly knowing me,
Sure.
you know? So cinema is the best way for me to express these these deeper concepts and things like that I kind of struggle with.
Yeah.
So it is something that's personal, and it is something that even if you can't necessarily phrase it, that's why we're making it as a film, because it's a different medium than talking.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no shame in, I am not against people crying. I don't know
Sure.
where I started, whatever. If you and we both want to cry right now, let's just have
We
a
could,
second.
and be fine.
You're good? Okay, that's fine. Speaking of collaborations,
Yes. Collaborative crying project.
let's try it out. You mentioned Letterbox earlier. I know you have
Yeah.
you have a series of like Letterboxd anthologies. But then also just going back to, I mean, you started with your uncle and family,
Mm-hmm.
and then you were making films with. I watched. I'm sorry, I forget the title of the exact number.
That's fine.
But X amount of days.
Oh, 365. I think.
365 days.
Yeah.
Where you made it with your friend, and that was when you're younger, and had hair.
Oh, that was actually me. That was all me.
You were the other guy too?
Yeah.
Whoa. Oh my god.
Yep, that was me.
Dude, your talent does not just like every day I'm learning how more and more talented you are. You this throws my whole point
you guys.
But you are just something fucking special. But you've said you've done films with your friends.
Yeah.
I'm thrown off, dude. I'm sorry. That's amazing. Like people, like viewers at home. If I'm talking to someone talented, but you started collaborating with your family,
Yeah.
then you went to collaborating with your friends, and then I just saw a project where you and KCN.
Yeah.
One of I just want to talk about him for just a second.
Yes, please.
This guy is just amazing. Kevin is phenomenal. He is somebody that it's just his output percentage. It's just
nuts.
so he's always doing something. His stuff is so unique and him, and it's just at such like a rapid release date. And it's just like he's someone that just like I'm texting people and like messaging people and like, hey, check this, because I just want to see him just keep killing it. And he's just someone. But you did something with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then your letterbox stuff, but you're very comfortable being someone comfortable with collaborating with other people. I mean, I guess talk about your collaborations, the concept of it with it, how you go into it,
mm-hmm.
and just your history with it, how you proceed with it, and how you feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, it started off with collaboration with me and like my uncle and my friend Ryan. It's always been that way for a majority of my filmmaking career. And I think it just allows for much more possibility. And while it is cool to be the only one working on a project and being like, okay, this is completely me, you know, when I was making, you know, dumbass comedies with my friends, it was like the more dumbass ideas, the better. And I just love having like-minded individuals come together to make something. And, you know, with you know, the last, besides Heavy Water and Celia's Dream, I had kind of a stretch of just making things by myself. And I really enjoyed that, but it got kind of lonely. I was like, I want someone else involved. I want more collaboration because I've always wanted to connect with more artists and you know, I just think the idea is so cool of two filmmakers coming together that maybe are states or countries apart and making something. And so like when Kevin reached out to me, I was like, hell yeah. I'm
You
gonna
two make you two work so well together. It
it
makes
was
total.
yeah, I think we kind of cover, maybe not cover certain themes, but I feel like we're kind of on a wavelength in terms of like certain topics or the way we express them non-verbally. Um, but I mean, from this point, like I want to do more collaborative stuff. I don't really care about making things just by myself. I did that and I enjoyed it, but I get more fulfillment out of like just working on something together. Like with Heavy Water, my friend Chase, he did all the camera work for it. He did the visual effects for it, and it heightened it to a level that I've never had before. And I couldn't have done that by myself. And I love that, and I want more of it. So collaboration, that's a win in my book.
And someone we both wish to someday collaborate with, the great and perfect, kind, physically strong, running fast, beautiful hair, beautiful eyes, heart of gold.
Yeah.
Just Michael Higgins. Michael
Higgins.
guy. Could you tell a quick story about Michael Higgins, and then I'll tell a couple.
So I first came across Higgins. What was it like? I think it's like it's been a decade at this point.
A decade. I
It's
remember seeing the Friendster posts.
yeah. It's been a long time. I came across him. I was at a hockey game, and he's a huge fan of hockey. He told me
Who loves hockey?
he loves it.
Yeah,
And I was sitting there. I had a few drinks in me. Who doesn't at a hockey game?
you do,
What was that?
as you do.
As you do. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a fourth drink. And the guy's coming along. He's like, beer, hot dogs, and I'm like, I'm freaking out because like I'm trying to get my pockets open and my pockets aren't opening, and the guy's coming and I'm having to hurry get the money out of my pocket. Michael Higgins, right next to me, he says, "Don't worry about it," and he hands the guy $10 and
What a
gets
good
me
person.
a fourth and fifth drink. And I'm just like,
Michael Higgins.
I don't, you just can't get any better than that. So from that point on, we've just been, we keep reminiscing about that moment in time.
Yeah.
Anyways, good guy.
I,
We love him.
I remember this happened a few days ago, and it's a memory. Uh, my wife and child and I, we were walking. It was just like a beautiful autumn evening.
Mm,
We just had dino nuggets, waffle,
yeah.
barbecue sauce we dipped in, as we do. And and it was just like it was a nice, cool evening. Cool as in the weather, but
Sure.
also cool as in we were all wearing matching leather jackets. And I remember seeing this fire
Okay.
in this tree. A tree was on fire, and
So scary.
coincidentally, the local orphanage was having a field trip of that tree. They were all on the top. All the way
No.
were on the top of the tree. I'm a coward. I couldn't go up there. Michael Higgins, all the way from Kilkenny, Ireland, just rushed over climbed the tree, through the fire,
No.
saved the orphans, and I remember just sobbing, crying. Speaking of, fucking pussy dudes, me just crying like crazy. And and here he is, just this hero, just this masculine. Like, I'm a straight dude, but I would let Michael Higgins just
You would.
count on me.
Right. He's
Just with his heroics.
he's like if he's like the modern day who landed on the moon? Who was the first guy to land on the moon? Was that Armstrong? Who landed on the moon? The first guy to touch the moon. Who was that?
Oh, Neil Armstrong?
Neil Armstrong. He's like the
Buzz
modern
Aldrin?
day. He's like the he's like the modern day Neil.
He's like him.
Yeah,
If
100%.
Buzz Aldrin had a baby with Paul Rudd.
With the musical and artistic ability of like a Paul McCartney.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's just like there's no stop to what Michael Higgins can and can't do. What a man.
You couldn't have said any better.
Bro. Wow. Like, I'm sorry we have to continue back to you after how great Michael Higgins is.
Honestly, nothing's going to top that, and I'm kind of pissed off now.
Yeah.
But
And I don't know, what are your influences?
the
Other
shit
than
on the
Michael
side of the
Higgins,
road.
we don't
I don't know.
talk about him anymore. It's just like I won't even tell you the time he saved me from drowning with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. I don't need to get into that because that'll just that will just weigh so heavy water over everything you have to say that I'm not
So
even going
true.
to over you.
It
So
just
let's just talk about, I guess, your influences as a filmmaker, as a thinker, and as a creator.
okay. I guess we can do that. Let's see. It's going to sound crazy, but I can't think of recently cinematic influences. I think,
It's tough to pigeon you into specific people.
and I hardly watch movies these days. Like the last couple movies I watched was The Pest and Howard the Duck. So, when it comes to the art stuff I make, I don't know how I can incorporate The Pest or Howard the Duck into that, but I'm sure I could find a way.
They'll make it happen.
I'll make it happen. For early on, it was a lot of David Lynch and his trademark style and weirdness. I was so drawn to that. And the way he incorporated, vagueness and mystery and just withholding information while also being incredibly just immersive and bizarre. I love that. And I still love that. That's still, even if I'm not actively thinking about it, that's still very much a part of my artistic DNA.
Sure.
And I think also just, other than like my emotions and the mental stuff, that's also, that's very inspiring, but also just the day to day. I live in a very boring part of the world. Lynnwood, Washington, shout out. Nothing happens here. And so there's not a whole lot to be inspired by here. It's so boring.
Right?
Huh?
You guys have pine trees?
We've got pine trees, definitely.
What more do you need, dude?
I don't know. I guess I'm not taking full use out of this environment. But I don't know. So it's just like I really appreciate the mundane aspects of life. I like the little things. I like the trees turning green to red and just the slowness of time and just what I see in front of me. I don't know. It's hard to explain what I'm exactly influenced by. It's just
Sure.
years of introspection and a variety of art and movies to kind of like build who I am now, I guess. Like looking back at some of the comedy films that my friends and I used to make, I'm still I love that stuff, and I want to make more of that. Like I don't know if you got a chance to see like Grandma's Recipe, but like I love that stuff just as much, or even sometimes more than the art house stuff.
Yeah.
Like I love
Dumb
dumb
and Dumber is one of the
comedies.
movies of all time.
What was that?
Dumb and Dumber is one of the greatest movies of all time.
And it's just you're right. It's I don't know what it is. I like laughing more than thinking sometimes. I think a lot of us do. I'm sure all of us do. And I don't know, man. It's there's just so much to be inspired by,
Yeah.
when you're living in Lynnwood, Washington. So
Yeah. No, that's like, I think there really is something to where, and we were talking about this before we started recording, where it's this idea that art house has to be stuffy and has to be overly serious.
hmm
And it's like, you can make a film about your anxiety that is really deep and really personal. And then afterwards, you can turn on Step Brothers, have just a great evening,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
have a chili dog and go to town, you
Right.
know.
Two maybe.
Exactly. And I think that's important, and there's nothing against any of that. I love it all, and whatever you experience or whatever whatever. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
you're in a town in Washington State, and I'm in a suburb of Minneapolis,
Hmm.
and I mean, luckily there's a lot of arts and stuff, you know, in the city, but at
Yeah,
times it's like, yeah, I just want to sit on my porch and enjoy life. And,
I love it.
yeah, I feel that entirely. There's nothing on like a hot day where I enjoy more on the porch.
God. Yeah, yeah,
A nice, delicious smoothie. And speaking of smoothies, you actually have a stream where you, with your friends, talking with your friends and people that follow you, you do a smoothie stream most Mondays, you know. And really, it's just like I have fun teasing you, and like we have our recurring bits
yeah,
where
yeah,
I just demand oats, and then it became demanding ice, where
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just fun. But I mean, what made you just for like on the side of art and whatever? What made you think of like starting to do that? Because it's been a real joy to watch, and
hmm
it's just been something that like I'll because I have a almost 3 year old, right? And that starts around or close to his bedtime. So
Oh,
then
okay.
sometimes I'll turn that on and I'm like playing with him. And he's just sitting on my lap and like, hey, Victor's making a smoothie. And he's like, oh, okay. So we're watching
That's
we're watching
beautiful.
for it like you're like, this is like dragon fruit powder or whatever. We're making an autumn one. So for people, so my recurring bit is like it needs more oats, and now it's like I'm demanding the ice sooner. So like, God, that's so it's just boiling hot. You gotta cool it down, and it's just a fun like stupid thing for you to play off of. But
I love it.
but what made you think of like starting to do smoothie stream? And like, are you just like a smoothie guy, or is it just something you just thought would be fun?
I don't even I don't even drink smoothies that like I'm not even a smoothie guy. Like like
I don't even like smoothies.
I dump it when I'm done streaming. I dump the whole thing. No, I really I started actually like 2018, I think. I did it a few times on Facebook. as just a way to like interact more with people I hadn't seen in a long time. Like, because I have a lot of high school friends on Facebook, and I don't ever see them or talk to them. So I was like, this would be fun, and kind of, you know, express my goofy, crazy side, while I'm doing the introspective art house films. And it's just been, I don't know. And then I got back onto Instagram and I started doing Instagram, and it's just been just a way to connect with people. And, I'm not the type of person to always like hit up someone or be the first to start a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
And so this was sort of like an indirect kind of way for me to talk with other people online. And also just be a little dumb guy while doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's fun. But yeah, I'm really not into smoothies that much. I'm really not making them unless I'm doing the stream.
Well, it's funny because I can tell that makes total sense because a lot of times you're doing it and you're like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while, and then you have like a nice, pleasant convo with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, no, I mean it's they're fun to watch. They're very, very, very casual.
Yeah.
It makes me want to make a smoothie, but I never do, you know. And it's just
Respect.
and it's like, yeah, no, yeah, smoothie stream.
Yeah.
Let's go, you know.
Inspiring no one. I love it. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, this is one of those things that came like random Mondays. It's like, all right, cool. Yeah, let's watch someone make a smoothie and let's tease them relentlessly until they add an ingredient we want. You know, and
That's
then
what
a few of the people on there that are all kind of regulars kind of join in. It's like, and what I'll do is I got you a couple of times where I have an acronym where
yes.
I'm like, like, are you a fan of the Operation Authority targets? And you're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, oat, or whatever.
See,
So it's like it's just
it's
all a
amazing.
bunch
I
of
love
oat
it.
and then now it's ice. So
It's what like it's the sort of interaction, like it's just the type of shit that I've just wanted, and I love that aspect. I've wanted to stream for a while, and so this kind of fills that void in
yeah,
of just doing a thing and then interacting with people, and I love you throw me off so many times, and it's so appreciated.
it's just
It keeps me on my toes because otherwise,
kind of fun, light, very light teasing and setting you up to either burn me back or to play off it or whatever.
right.
And it's just one of those fun, random, like, oh yeah, sweet. Let's watch someone make a smoothie. I was like, it's so boiling hot. You need to cool it down with more ice. And it's getting kind of because you were doing like, and dude, I don't know the exact year that I caught on to you doing it on Instagram,
Mhm.
but it was like, tune in for that. That's pretty fun. And then you went into the forest of doom or whatever
Yeah.
for some self-reflection. Coincidentally, right after you saw Kyle MacLachlan,
That's true.
I don't
Yeah.
know what comes to mind. Are you in the Black Lodge? Were you in the Black Lodge? Or
You could say that. You could say that.
you don't need to share all that. I understand. Just wink twice if you're not you. But then you come back and the smoothie stream is returned. So I'll have all your links and stuff in the description so people can just. Some Monday is usually around. It's about 8 to 8:30 Central. So I don't know.
Yeah,
So
it's been different because of
I kind
school,
of like that. It's just when it happens.
right? And with school now, I for some reason I picked a class that landed on a Monday, and
How's
so
school going?
what was that?
How's school going?
Going good.
Yeah,
It's going very
yeah,
good. I'm
yeah,
I'm I'm doing just fine.
yeah.
It's easy.
And,
Lemon squeezy,
yeah, you don't have to share
right?
all of that or whatever, but it's the type of thing that whenever anyone can, they feel the need to go back and to get more education in something they're interested in and something they want to get better at. Whether
Yeah.
it's a trade school with mechanics, whether it's a school to learn more. Like I know people that were older, like older, and then it's like, oh, sweet, I'm gonna do a class on like philosophy because I always wanted to.
Yeah.
And it's just like if you can go back and you can keep honing and tightening your skills, why not?
Yeah, it was more so a thing of like I didn't have, you know, a set of skills that, aside from, working at various 9 to 5s, I didn't have like a set of skills that I felt like, oh, I could use this as a, as a thing for a career or something.
Sure.
So, and I wanted to get into, with art being such a big part of my life, I was like, well, maybe I can find something that involves both a technical skill and art. My friend told me about the audio program at Shoreline, and I was like, okay, fuck yeah, we're doing it. We're just gonna do it. I'm
Yeah,
not getting any younger. I mean, I'm only 28. I, so I got time. I think we'll see, and
yeah.
I'm just gonna go with it and just see what happens, and hopefully something comes of it. So,
That I can surely say in terms of the stuff like sound has always been a strong suit of
yeah,
what you're doing, and you have such a unique way you create in the films you make that I'm always excited when and if there's new Victor Martin projects coming. Um, and yeah, I think you're one of the filmmakers and artists that I'm really drawn to.
thank you.
I think you've created stuff, whether you know it or not, that has truly been a supreme enjoyment of mine that I think when people are lucky enough to take the time to watch it, they will feel it more so than they understand it. But what they're gonna feel is gonna be something omnipotently enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I
And
said,
on that note, oh
like
sorry.
oh no, in Heavy Water, the character states that he just hopes it connects with the viewer,
And
and
you
I
yeah,
that's kind of all I can ask for. I just hope it connects with you.
yeah, get connected. You're truly the J Lo of our time.
I'm honored.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
honored.
And on that note, in about 3 seconds, I'll hit the stop record button.
Okay.
Um, 3, 2.
I love the ending to this. This is good.
1.
The J Lo of our time. Here, I'm gonna stop mine too.